Whenever we come in and start doing the validation process for market steers or for your major shows, this is one of those things that's always a little bit nerve-wracking, especially for county agents and ag teachers, because this is one of those areas where we do this in June, and then we go all the way through the feeding process, and then we get to Fort Worth, San Antonio, and Houston, which is where we're not going to know we've run into a problem until we go to the scales to be verified for tattoos, verified for correct ear tags, whenever we get to the major shows. So if we can go through here and be real thorough in this particular process, this is where we're going to eliminate and alleviate some of those problems that we might be able to run into. And there's basically 5 parts to the validation process. Whenever new agents are coming into this is some of the things that they just may be completely unaware. And then even though we're tenured agents, we often forget about this because we just take it for granted that everything is going to go the same as it was last year, and we ignore some of those changes or overlook some of those changes that may have occurred. The first thing that we're going to talk about is your paperwork. That's probably first and foremost. And included in that paperwork is your validation committee, because this is where some of those members can certainly come into play and help you with some of those menial tasks that often get overlooked, and that is the filling out of the validation forms themselves. The first one that you may be coming to look at, and it'll come in your validation packet whenever you get your tags from Sharon West and the folks that are up there in Dr. Dromgoole's office, where you'll place your tag orders. That's your steer market validation form. This is where you're going to record all of the names of your 4-H and FFA exhibitors that are going to be on here. And that's where we're going to validate each one of these steers as a family. And this is where you're going to put Joe or Johnny or Mary family on that card. So we've got it down now to where it's all printed on here. We just have to put every sibling that's on there, and making a special note if we happen to have step siblings. This is where we're going to have to make sure that we have everybody on that card and note, especially if those names are different. So that's the first one of those cards that we're going to have. We're also going to have our nose print card. We're also going to have our DNA card that we're going to have with us, where we're going to collect our hair samples or our DNA samples. And then one of the most important ones is our ethics form. And that whenever this comes in, it's going to come in the form, you can download it off of the web, or a copy of this will come with you in your packet from the state office. It's going to be a 2-sided document. So whenever we go in and run that document, make sure that we have front and back so that we can collect the signatures, and we have all the information that's needed on there to get our to make sure that we have all the information and ethics codes met whenever you have your ethics sheet signed. So once all that paperwork is completely filled out, what we normally do in our county, in Grimes County, the only thing that we do not do, or that we do not fill out beforehand, is the signatures on those forms. That way we can go back over them whenever we get through with the validation process, make sure that all the signatures are there, make sure that all the county codes are on there, make sure that everything is intact. Then we'll sign off on it for the last time before we pull them apart, send them on their way, and the validation process is complete. So that's the first thing that we'll pay particularly close attention to, is going to be the paperwork. The other parts that we talked about is the collection of the DNA, which we're going to show you how to do that on those particular steers. But those collection process for the DNA is going to come out of the tail, out of the switch of the tail. Not off the side, not off the body, not off the head, but out of the switch of the tail. The reason for that is we have to have the root ball come out. This is where they're going to be able to run and collect that DNA sample. We cannot get what we need if we just pull hair out of the tail, out of the tail head, or anywhere else. If you're combing the loose hair that may happen to come out, that does us no good for DNA collection. So we have to make sure that we get that out of the root ball, which we're going to pull those out of the tail. The next to the last step that we're going to cover or talk about is the tattoo process. Obviously, we're not going to tattoo today because the steers that we have, that's a permanent marking on those cattle, and we're not going to go in and do that today, but that process we are going to discuss. And what goes into that steer's ear as far as the tattoo is going to be the county validation number, and that's also going to come in your packet. In the back of that packet, in the last 2 pages or 3 pages of that document, there's going to be your county code. Each county in the state of Texas is assigned those numbers. All you've got to do, if you don't know it already, 093 is that for Grimes County, but you'll just come through, find your respective county, look at your look at your tattoo, or look at your assigned number, and that's what we're going to stamp inside that steer's ear. So that is one thing that you're going to have to make sure that you have on hand whenever the validation process starts, is a tattoo set with your validation numbers intact. Now, there's several different colors of validation ink. What we normally use is just the green ink, the tattoo ink that comes with your die set, is what we normally use with those. Shows up in every kind of cattle and every color cattle ear, but that green tattoo ink works just fine. And we're going to put that county validation number inside that steer's ear, and we'll show you how to do that up close whenever we get on to that particular session. Then the last thing that we do is actually nose print that particular steer. In your validation package, you're going to have cards, index cards that we'll send you, and on the front part is going to have the name or the family. Then you're going to be given the validation number, you're going to give your county number, and you're going to give your declared breed of that steer. Not necessarily all that important, because we validate, or we declare the breed once we get to the respective shows. One important thing on here, you notice we talked about the validation number. That is what's going to be on those tags. You've got two parts to it. You've got the button, which this is a very important part. This is where the electronic ID portion comes. There's 15 numbers that are printed around this tag. The last 4 numbers on your button are going to correspond with a tag number that's going to be on your validation tags. Make doubly sure that before you put that tag in that calf's ear, that you have got the correct tag and the correct button.